I'm making this video because I've been doing some digging, no pun intended, into giant beings, and I stumbled across this YouTuber called Mud Fossils University, and at first I was fairly fucking skeptical, because I'm sitting here thinking, like, this dude, I've never even heard of the term mud fossils in my life, so what is this guy on about? After a good few videos, round about approximately half an hour each, it was becoming grossly apparent to me that this guy isn't just a random run-of-the-mill, oh look at me, I do a 9 to 5 at Sainsbury's, or oh yeah, let me just go down to the local pet cemetery and like get paid 50 grand for cleaning out tombs or something. It wasn't anything like that as what I was seeing, because it was grossly apparent that this man, I don't have any knowledge of this man. I've just stumbled across him on YouTube. And this is where it gets kind of interesting, because I googled Mud Fossils University, and surprise, to my surprise, he was just being deemed a conspiracy theorist nut for his findings. And I do the little bunny ears for findings, because they're all saying that, oh well, there's nothing to actually suggest his findings are like adequate or even real. No one's even like heard of them, and it's like, this man claims to be somewhat involved with the mud fossils, and I don't mean into the ones he found, I mean the entire practice as a whole. So I'm sitting here right now to tell you what this is just basically my 2 cents of what I think. So you're welcome to click off if you want, but at the same time, I don't really care. I know what I believe in, I know that's not what everyone believes, but hey, that's what makes us human, difference of opinion. So yeah, I've been watching him, and this is the part that I found fairly interesting, is the fact that this man has a vast amount of knowledge about the science behind humans down to a literal microscopic level, to the point where he knows what type of vasculatory systems look like, to the point where he can literally point at you and be like, oh, you see that there, that is A or B of these vasculatory systems, and goes into greater detail. And he also explains about how different parts of each vasculatory system, some have a different colour to them for a different chemical reaction and whatnot, and stuff like that. And it just becomes grossly apparent to me that this guy isn't a fucking nutcase. Judging by his constant hand and waving of feathers on his videos, I would say he is a good 50 years old. So it's not like he's fucking old enough to have gone senile or anything like that. But I found it so enticingly aggravating that he was, in his videos, he's got the findings, like he's got, how do I put this? He's got a fingertip, like you see that little fucking nail thing, like right there? Yeah, that he's got a mud fossil, which is self-explanatory of what the fuck it is, and it's 37 inches long. Well, just 37 inches like tip, yeah. And this is where it starts to get interesting, because the people that were just calling him a conspiracy theorist nut and stuff like that failed to understand the complexity of, one, how much time it would take, for two, how much effort it would take, and for three, how many connections you would have, and four, how many types of information that you would have to even attempt to just do this for fun. Where it gets a little like this. You have him explaining to you that this fingertip, this mud fossilized fingertip, is that of a giant. Well, I mean, obviously, how could a 37 fucking inch fingertip belong to an average man of my size? You know what I mean? Hardly a surprise. But then he says, this is DNA verified. Whew, yeah, DNA verified, eh? Okay then. He brings up an email from said place. It has the fax machine number, it has the mobile number, it has the logo, it has the name of the entire company. As you scroll down, it says a 37-inch tip was tested for human DNA, and it found what I feel like is kind of relative in this situation. I found something to do with mitochondria. And we all know since fucking high school, mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. So, yeah, there's that. And, yeah, and it also says that it was practically very good DNA. Like, so I'm thinking, alright, so clearly he's just, like, taking it from himself. But then, to, like, mine and everyone's surprise watching it, he then fucking turns on his light. He's, what do they call it? Not a magnifying glass, like, you know those fuckers where you're, like a desk light sort of thing. And he's picked up this fingertip, which was about that big, by the way, just for frame of reference. And he's flipped it over and showed you exactly where he's gotten the blood from. And the blood looks fairly, well, you can't say it looks like blood because, well, yeah, but where he got the blood out from, said blood, it was all copperized. And what I mean by that, it was like a bronzy reddish colour. And then he starts saying, see, this is where I got the blood from. You can tell by, well, when blood dries out, it gives that kind of colour. And then also with this knuckle that he found, he starts pointing out the fucking different vascular and muscular like systems that are located in an average human's hand. And it's like, the more and more you listen to the guy, it's like, yeah, he's making a lot of sense. And I say he's making a lot of sense is because I refuse to believe someone of 50 years of age, this is a guesstimate, I refuse to believe some man of 50 years old would have gone through his entire fucking life to like learn human anatomy, biology and science just to then create a YouTube channel to then fake these mud fossils just so he can turn around and be like, See that? Yeah, that's the vascular system in your finger. That's the muscle tissues in your finger. You know what I mean? I just feel like that's a very, very, very unlikely thing to concur. Like, you know what I mean? I just really do not understand how these people can really slate this man. It's like the more you listen to him, the more it becomes completely evident that this man is highly educated in, as I said, human anatomy, biology and science. So it's like, you're telling me he's just going to have gone throughout his entire life just getting to that one moment where it's like, now this is a time. Now that YouTube is finally taking off, I can create my YouTube channel to lie to the world about these giant beings. Like, just break that down for a second, yeah? Think how much money it would cost to fake mud fossils, fake DNA tests, fake the whole numbers, fake the whole fax numbers, fake the whole like letter and shit like that, and think how long that would take. Like, because you've got to think, this man clearly knows his human anatomy, so I'm guessing that's a good like couple of years, if that. And that's me being fairly generous. Like, I'm saying a couple of years, if that, was like being the bare minimum. So you're just telling me he's going to waste a couple of years of his fucking life just to come through and be like, yeah, these mud fossils, yeah, these are giant remains. Like, you know what I mean? I would think some man of 50 years old wouldn't be focused on doing stuff like that. He would have more adventurous activities such as, you know, having a cup of coffee, reading the newspaper, watching his favourite TV programmes, not being very stressed. Stuff like that. You wouldn't think he's like going to be doing all this random shit, like creating all that, you know what I mean? But it's just so aggravating to me, because it's like, if you knew the amount of time, effort, energy, money and resources that it would take to do that, then you clearly know that you saying that he's just spouting shit out of his mouth is complete fallacies. Like, it's just really annoying, to say the least, because it's like, why? What does he have to, you know what I mean? What does he get out of being like, oh yeah, look what I've found, you know what I mean? What does he get out of it? Like, that shit's already happened. That ship has long sailed past. The Cardiff Giant. It was a fake giant. What did it do for people? Not much. Not much at all. But then the key thing here is that, like me, who gets completely fucking marginalised from history pages on Facebook, Twitter, fucking Reddit, stuff like that, YouTube, for one, which is ironically where I'm going to upload this to, stuff like that. I've been kicked out of so many fucking groups just because I flirt with the idea that giants once existed on this earth. And quite frankly, just with about not even a year's worth of research, I can easily concur that it's no longer what if they did. It is a question of how did they. Because, I'm sorry, but I've said this once before and I'll say it again. A very, very common occurrence when someone is lying, or a group of people is lying, is they can never get their story straight. But this is the funny thing. 1,500 newspaper clipping reports of giant skeletons being found ranging anywhere from 6 feet tall to 20 feet tall. And now you're telling me all those 1,500 reports are all collectively seeing the same type of thing in the same type of environments? They are all lying. Really? You've got it like this. You've got, yeah, I've seen giant remains. Oh yeah, I've seen giant remains. I've seen giant remains. Alright, cool. Cool. You know what I mean? But then it's like, people say that, but never want to believe it. It's crazy to me. Like, it is borderline insanity that there is over 1,000 fucking documented reports of giant fucking beings being found on this planet, and yet we still refuse to admit that they are existing. Refuse, point blank. It's like, no, if they walked on this earth, we'd have proof. I know papers aren't exactly the most reliable sources of information, or at least nowadays, but they were back in the day, circa of 1800, 1900s, stuff like that. Yeah, they were back then. But it just comes back to what I'm saying. People who are lying can never get their story straight. It's always like, oh yeah, well you see him over there, yeah, he was flirting with my missus like 2 days ago. And then another geezer comes up and he'd be like, oh yeah, that guy flirted with his missus, but it was like a couple of weeks ago. And it's like, wait, what? I thought it was 2 days ago, not a couple of weeks ago. You see what I'm saying? The story starts getting a bit confuculated, is what I like to say. It got a bit confuculated, because the story is now not 100% matching. And that's exactly what happens when people are lying. People who lie can't get their story straight. Their stories don't corroborate. But with these giant findings and whatnot, all say the same thing. Gigantic proportions. Like giant skulls, giant fucking, what's it called? Not femurs. Giant fire bones, giant weapons laying next to them, stuff like that. People finding major tooths like about that big, going, yeah, if you have this tooth in proportion to the rest of your body, you would be about a 10-footer. You know what I mean? And it's all the same thing. It's always big ass bones that are in proportion with the rest of their bodies. That's always been the way, but no one wants to admit it. So the fact that he's getting called a conspiracist nut when there's over 1,000 documented reports of these giant beings being found is a tiny bit backwards, to say the least. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, he's talking about giants, like 50 to 100 foot giants. But the problem is that he's got, what I can concur, he's got the evidence to back it up. Am I a fucking psychic? No. Am I a DNA specialist? No. But what I can tell, as I was saying before I got so rudely cut off, is that I'm a good censor of bullshit when I hear it. And since he's, as what I said in the last one, as far as I can see, he's got the evidence to prove it. Because I find it vastly unlikely that he's going to expand thousands of pounds worth of his own pocket, time, energy and whatnot, just to make up hoo-ha. You know what I mean? Like, so yeah, there's that. But if I'm being 100% honest, like, the Smithsonian is where you should really be asking and taking your questions, because the Smithsonian Institute was formed back in the days of where just racist white crackers was just around. So you think about it, in a time where majority of people were racist, imagine the bruised egos back then if they found what looked like to be the remains of a fucking slave, but they're like, oh wait, no, this couldn't be a slave because, like, look at, you know what I'm saying? Like, you can't sit there and be like, oh yeah, we're the superior race, and then, like, this is actually a quote from someone who I listen to called XXXTentacion. He actually says a very valid point, which applies to this situation as well. Because when you think about it, the Smithsonian Institute was formed in a time where, as I said, it was just a bunch of rich white crackers who just hated black people and every indigenous type of people. So it was just, yeah, if you found something that was African, Native American, or anything of the sort that is not white, oh God, that was getting destroyed. You already fucking know it. Because imagine what went through their thought pattern back then. They're sitting there being like, yeah, we're the supreme beings, we're the supreme race. Only to then be outdone by the very people that you call slaves. You know what I'm saying? Like, imagine that. Imagine the level of bruised ego you would get when you're like, oh yeah, like, fuck these slaves. Hate them. We'll do anything to them because we're the supreme beings. And then it's like, finds a casual 10 to 12 foot Native American. What? I thought we were the supreme beings. You know what I mean? And as, well, I'm not going to say a friend of mine because I didn't actually know him personally, but as a musician who I listen to, who's now dead, XXXTentacion in his video for Riot, where he hangs a kid, it sounds a lot worse than it actually is. But he actually says a very good point that applies to this situation, as I was saying before I got sidetracked. If you call English, if you call yourself a supreme race, and yet you're moved out of your comfort zone by the opposition's colour, stature, wealth, or whatever, you are nowhere fucking near a supreme race. Since when in the globalised fucking hell has a supreme race ever felt intimidated by an inferior race? If you really believed that you were this superior race, then why would you be getting so pushed out of your comfort zone by the people you deemed inferior? Why would you fucking do that? You wouldn't. Because that therefore shows that you are in no way, shape or form of fucking supreme being, race, whatever. You is nothing. You are 100% an old, racist, white piece of shit that should have been shot in the head the moment you were born. And that's just life. But yeah, as I was saying about the whole situation with the mud fossils, it's like people really are trying to sit there and be like, nah, this dude's a conspiracy theorist nut. And it's like, yeah, but like, who in the fuck right mind in their 50s is going to waste their time, effort, money, resources and life just to be like, yeah, you see this that I made earlier, yeah, I made this one earlier, find him on fucking Blue Peter next, Jesus Christ. You know what I mean? It's just such an illogical jump. Because he's actually even said, which was one of the points that the guy who was rinsing him was trying to make. the guy who's rinsing him for it was basically saying, oh yeah, I've tried looking for all of his findings, but there's jack shit, basically, in layman's terms. And he actually says in multiple of these videos that I've tried letting archaeologists, anthropologists and whatnot from the countries fucking in the world and stuff like that. He has tried to genuinely reach out to these people and say, look at my fucking findings if you don't believe me. Fucking look. Obviously not like that, because, you know, he's a fairly old man, from what I can tell. Maybe he's just got really bad fucking hands from working too hard all of his life. I do not know. But from what I can see from his hands in every video, he is a fairly old man. Not old enough to be senile, but, you know, old enough to the point where your hands are all wrinkly now. So, yeah, the fact that he's said that he's tried and tried again, but yet no one wants a part of it, it kind of speaks for itself, you know what I mean? It's either they don't take it seriously enough, or they do take it seriously enough and that's the reason why they don't. Because if they do, then think of all the rewriting of history books that would fucking make. I personally believe that the dinosaurs were a lot fucking bigger than we give them credit for. Because with someone